Welcome, everybody. Let us discuss AEW Forbidden Door. Alright. There is nothing about Forbidden Door that stands out from any other AEW show. It wasn't that much special about it, but we're going to discuss it anyway. It wasn't a bad show, but my God, some of the referees, some of the booking decisions, things were absolutely atrocious. Okay? Some things were really, really bad. Alright, let's start with the main event as we do with pay-per-view events. Lights out, steel cage, 5-on-5. Team Darby, which includes the Darby Allin, the man with no knees, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, the man with no ankles, Will Ospreay, the man with a broken neck, and Kenny Omega, the man with no guts. Then their opponents are Team Moxley, which includes the Baldies, Jon Moxley, Claudio, and Gabe Kidd, and the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks have a Hanson theme song, which I swear I have not heard in at least 15 to 20 years. Insane. The Young Bucks are trying to bring comedy back to wrestling. They even started doing Being the Elite again. They're trying to be the guys that the audience liked in the first place. They're trying to win the fans back. They still run the fans off, though. So the match starts out pretty slow. There's gummy bears in the ring. At that point, I was like, okay, what are we doing here? Gabriel Kidd power drived Will Ospreay pretty early in the match, actually. Which, of course, meant nothing, because when they weren't doing things, people were just laying down for most of the match. Claudio bench pressed Darby and launched him against the cage. That was fine. And then Tanahashi at one point was the only babyface in the ring. And like I said, he moves like Cotton Hill. He moves like a three-legged dog. And all of a sudden, he was dodging the opponents like they were stormtroopers. I mean, he was treating them like putties and Power Rangers. They were kicking each other and knocking each other down. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? There's no way. There's no way. His mobility is really poor. He's got the mobility of a hatchback. This guy can't move. Anyway, later in the match, Darby Allin is taped to the chair. Like a kidnapping victim, like a POW. And Moxley breaks out a fork and starts forking the ear of Darby Allin. This got the biggest reaction of the entire match. This is some fetish stuff. It's got to be. Alright? There's got to be something sexual with these guys doing this stuff. This was completely unnecessary. Did not lead to the finish. And really didn't do much in the way of finishing the story of the match at all. It was just a gross spot that they decided to do at this time. Will Ospreay did a moonsault off the top of the ladder onto a pile of people, including his own partners. Wheeler Yuta climbed the top of the cage. The moment he climbed up that cage and they shot that camera angle from a wide shot, I said, Wheeler Yuta's going off that cage. And then he sure did. Darby Allin punched him, and then Wheeler Yuta fell off the cage and fell on top of the announce desk. To virtually no pop. Virtually no reaction for a guy falling off of a cage through a table. Later, Gabriel Kidd and Darby are on top of the cage, and they tip over and fall off the top of the cage, and they fall through tables. Large crash, huge crash. Nothing. Almost no reaction for these guys falling through tables, off the tops of ladders. We have crossed the Rubicon where these things don't mean anything anymore. Guys can do moonsaults off the top of the cage. They can fall off ladders, but the only thing people are responding to is gross shit like people getting stabbed. What is going on here? What have you done to your audience? I mean, by this point in the show, people were kind of tired. This was 4.5 hours into the show. I mean, the show was 4.5 hours, so It was pretty long. It was pretty long. The finish was Tanahashi hitting the high fly flow on one of the Young Bucks. I don't remember which one it was. Doesn't matter which one it was. Because Tanahashi got the big pin. I thought that was weird. I thought Ospreay should get the pin. Or Darby should get the pin. I mean, one of the other baby faces. But they wanted to give Tanahashi the victory as this is his last time in London for his career. Which is, I guess, respectful, I suppose. And since Tanahashi was going to do the jump, he might as well go ahead and get the pin. I mean, how careless is it that you put a man with that level of mobility in the ring? His knees are shot. His legs are so bad off that even if he borrowed somebody else's knees, he still wouldn't be able to move that well. Tanahashi is cooked. All right, he's cooked beyond belief. Most of the other guys didn't really do much of anything in this match. People bled, but they didn't really do anything. And it wasn't really all that. It was a spectacle, I suppose. But it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, to be quite honest. So Will Ospreay got the big babyface moment at the end. All the babyfaces left the cage. I guess they left through the door. And all the heels were still in the ring. So Will Ospreay is blowing kisses to the audience because he's going to be gone for a while following this event. And then, of course, the Death Riders just jumped him. Dropped him on his head 100 times. They were going to Pillmanize him, so the Ops ran down to the ring. Nobody decided to climb the cage. The baby faces are all on the outside. And not one of these geniuses thought, hey, we should probably climb the cage and get back in. Nobody did. Nobody did it. So Moxley and company Pillmanized Will Ospreay, putting a chair around his neck and stomped it. And I started asking questions. I'm like, all right. Now, how are the Death Riders going to get out of the ring? The babyfaces are all on the outside. The Ops are not out there too now. How are they going to get out? There should be people covering all four corners. How are they going to get out? Well, the cage lifted just enough for them to slip out, and just enough for the Ops to slip in. So that was it. This was ridiculous. That finishing spot was completely unnecessary. As if you were going to write Will Ospreay off the show, he should have lost the match. That's what you should have done. You should have had him get beat and get taken out of the match. But he had to go out on a win, and then you had to give Moxley his heat back. Look, I'm not one to tell Booker of the Year, super genius, to Tony Khan what to do. But I didn't like that. Alright? I thought the babyfaces looked dumb standing outside the cage instead of trying to get back in and help him. I thought they were dumb by not blocking all the ways that the Death Riders could exit. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Unfortunate. Match number 8. Hangman Page defeats MJF. The match itself told a decent to good story with decent to good action. It had a lot of the AEW story elements that I don't like. Well, I should say action elements that I don't like. But I like MJF's character and I like his character work, but there are some issues there. For instance, I like that MJF was stalling early because the point of MJF is that he's got the rules in his favor. He can win the match by disqualification. He can win the match by count out. And he's already pissed off Hangman Page to the point where Hangman Page wants to rip his head off. So now he's being a matador. Let the bull get as mad as possible and take advantage. Hangman comes in. He's aggressive. He got his hands on MJF a little too early for my liking. But it is what it is at this point. Then, out of nowhere, Hangman Page gives MJF the equivalent of a power driver off the ring apron onto a table. In the middle of the match, by the way. A dead eye through a table onto the floor, off the ring apron. Of course, it was not the finish. That's the stuff about AEW that I do not like. MJF yelling at Danielson, who was on commentary all night. Then he starts working on the wound that he caused in Hangman Page's head. There's a running tombstone power driver by MJF onto the floor through a piece of the table. Do you think that was the finish? Nowhere near. Nowhere near. They did the first Booyah spot of the night, which was good because I was glad I didn't have to watch that all night. Then they get the constant roll-ups. Both guys are bleeding and they're doing technical roll-ups back and forth. It went on for so long that I actually started to smile because it was like 1, 2, roll, 1, 2, roll, 1. This is stuff that you do usually early in the match. So eventually they start kicking out at 1, which I thought was neat. And then we get to the probably the part of the match where it starts to fall apart. But this is the part where I liked MJF character work the most. MJF starts getting desperate. He's tried everything and he can't beat Hangman. So now he's going to tease Hangman. He takes a dynamite diamond ring out of his trunks, puts it at Hangman's feet, then he spits at Hangman. Hangman grabs the ring and is going to punch MJF. Then he thinks about it and he spits in MJF's face. I am not a fan of spitting. Again, that's one of those things that, to me, feels very fetishy. I don't think why men want to spit on each other. There was an inconspicuous ref bump. Some weird ref bump. Where Hangman Page was shoved into the referee. MJF hits the heat seeker, which is his pile driver. He gets a 3 count. So he technically won the match. Now, Hangman Page, his foot is on the ropes. But the referee did not see that. So then after the 3 count, the referee, took a nap, fell into unconsciousness. I don't know. And then Mark Briscoe was out there. MJF's music is not playing. He is not announced as the world champion. And here comes Mark Briscoe. He's out there. He gets carried to the back, by security, who is frustrated about him being there. The referee then wakes up, sees Hangman's foot on the rope, waves off the original 3 count, and restarts the match. What? Since when can you do that? So MJF then distracts the referee by bringing in the CMLL title. While that's happening, he hits Hangman Page in the head with the metal case. He only gets a 2 count. Then MJF collects the Dynamite Diamond ring. I don't know where he got it from. He's going to hit Hangman with it. The referee grabs his arm and removes the ring from MJF's hand. While the referee is distracted, Hangman Page hits MJF with the metal case, then hits him with a Deadeye, followed by a buckshot lariat to win the match. So it went from MJF versus Hangman Page to MJF versus the referee. He was being foiled at every single turn by either the referee or Hangman Page, which makes MJF look. Let's back up. I like that he got desperate and he started trying all these different things. He started intensifying his cheating. That's a good thing. That's a good psychology for a character like MJF. The problem is, it seemed like they just kept using gimmick after gimmick after gimmick after gimmick after gimmick, and none of this stuff was working. And it's like, damn, it makes MJF look stupid. He's trying every different kind of misdirection. He's trying low blows. He's trying all kind of stuff, and nothing works. He just ain't got it. Now, the whole thing with the referee just blew my mind, because how can the referee wave off a 3 count? Oh, whatever. Look, the referee's decision is final. We're going to say that. And so, Hangman Page is still the world champion. It was announced during the media scrum after the show, that they will no longer be doing these cash-ins like Money in the Bank. Now you have to give the champion a week in advance. So Tony Khan wants to promote these championship matches. So he decided to change the rules, which I don't think you could change a contract while the contract is still active. You know? Like, how can you change the terms of the deal? Like, if MJF had lost his contract, which I don't believe he has, then you want to change the terms of it for next year. That's fine. But how can you change the terms of the contract while he still has it? I don't know. Maybe you can suspend certain elements of it, for a night or so, like they did with the 24/7 title or something like that. But generally speaking, I don't like the idea of the company being able to alter agreed upon contracts. But the referees jobbing out MJF, very odd decision, extremely odd decision. But Hangman Page gets to keep the belts, and that's what they wanted. Toni Storm defeated Athena. The match was good, but not special. Athena's an idiot and a jabroni. Athena was in control for most of the match, making Toni Storm fight from underneath, which is typical heel stuff. She hit an eclipse, or what they call the O-face. I refuse to call it the O-face. Over the top rope. At one point, Billy Starks is being a problem. Mina Shirakawa chases her off with a chair. Athena goes for the eclipse. It gets countered into the crossface chicken wing, and Athena taps out. Hey, yo! Athena. She came on this roster twice this year, just to lose both times. What does it mean that she's Ring of Honor champion for 1,000 days? What does that mean? It means she's a big fish in a small pond. It means she's not really a champion because she's got beat by both the TBS champion and the world champion during the same title run in the same year. So there's that. I don't want to hear any more about Athena. Kazuchika Okada defeated Swerve Strickland. The match was solid. Psychology was kind of bunk though. Swerve Strickland did a kip up upside the ring, twisted his knee, but then he was still doing swerve stomps and drop kicks and running just fine, even after Okada targeted the knee. This was ridiculous. Anyway, I thought that Swerve was going to be Superman and take multiple Rainmakers, yet it only took one. So it was a solid to good match. Okada pinned Swerve. After the match, Okada attacked Swerve's leg, hitting it with a chair while it's jammed in between the steps and the ring post. This is literally for no reason. Prince Nana comes running out there with a pipe because Prince Nana couldn't be at ringside due to the rules of the Continental Crown thing. So he chases off Okada with this pipe, which Okada had a chair. He should have been able to take Prince Nana with a pipe. Anyway, this was all one big setup so that Wardlow could return to an extremely mild reaction. Mild, to say the least. I think it took a while before people recognized him. Wardlow has been off TV for 18 months. A year and a half. And I thought it was longer than that, to be quite honest. I don't remember the last thing he did, but I know it resembled the next thing he did, which is after he beat up Prince Nana, he started fighting security guards. Because I remember him having a 20v1 with the security guards. Then he formally joined the Don Callis family. So Wardlow is now a member of Don Callis' group. I guess Brian Cage is down, so Brian Cage's spot is being going to Wardlow. At least I think that's the case. Lance Archer is still there. His tramp stamp still well in place. Kanosuke Takeshita is there. Everybody's extremely happy to have Wardlow back. Look, I definitely think they missed the boat on Wardlow. I'm a Wardlow truther. I believe in the Wardlow idea. But it's clear that he's not being positioned as a top wrestler. He's being positioned as a heavy for Takeshita and the rest of the Don Callis family. That's going to be his job. So his job is going to be similar to what he was doing the last time he was in AEW. So what have we learned? We ain't learned nothing. Next, FTR, the Hurt Syndicate, and Brody King and Bandito for the tag team championships. Brody King and Bandito won the titles, believe it or not. I am surprised by that. I'm not surprised the Hurt Syndicate lost, though. Not surprised by that at all. If you've been following the dirt sheets, I ain't surprised about that at all. So, the Hurt Syndicate were basically eliminated from the match when Ricochet and his goons attacked. Now, there was a lot of whispering about the kinds of guys that the Hurt Business wanted to work with. And these two gentlemen, Toa Leona and Bishop Khan, were two of the guys that they wanted to work with. They were willing to work with them, do jobs for them or whatever, according to the dirt sheets, that they didn't want to do jobs to smaller guys or whatever. And they were willing to work with these guys. So now all of a sudden these guys were put with Ricochet. And it just so happens to line up storyline wise that Ricochet has a beef with the Hurt Syndicate. Remember, he got kicked out after MVP gave him a business card. So it just so happens to line up that Ricochet is getting his revenge on the Hurt Syndicate, which is good storytelling. They're going to pretend like they set it up this way, but I'm certain it was completely and totally an accident. The crazy thing is, this run-in did not lead to the finish. It only led to the match becoming a regular tag team match between two teams, being FTR and Brodito. And then, of course, Bandito and Brody King won the tag team championships. Bandito is a phenom for AEW and has been the MVP all year in the ring. He's very good. And Brody King wore a t-shirt at one time, got a lot of attention. So that means you get to be a tag team champion. You got the right politics and you team you up with one of the MVPs of the company. You get to be a tag team champion. Hooray. Good for you, Brody. Good for you. Fight the power, man. Fight the power. Next, the most boring match of the night. Zack Sabre Jr. defeats Nigel McGuinness. I'm not going to pretend I care about this. I'm pretty sure you don't either. Jamie Hayter returned. She came back to save Queen Aminata as she's being jumped by Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. Tekla and Queen Aminata have been feuding. And of course, Tekla is the one who punched out Jamie Hayter earlier this year. So Jamie Hayter is back. That's good. Is Jamie Hayter going to be treated like a star? No. All these people are on Collision. So she's going to be a Collision collider from this point forward. Mercedes Moné, of course, retains the TBS Championship over Persephone, Alex Windsor, and Bozilla. Everybody's talking about Bozilla because she's massive. She's huge. And they worked the fact that she was big in this match. But the best thing about this is they said that she's 6 feet. But she's only 21 years old. Which means she's inexperienced. But that means that she's got many, many years to get better. And all she had to do was work big. And she was a unique person in this match. And brought a unique energy to the match. A lot of people was like, hey, she's about to get the Stephanie Vaquera call. Which I hope she does, to be quite honest. To be as young as she is. And as inexperienced as she is. If she can get into a system that actually takes her size and presence into account, like an NXT would or a main roster WWE, and she gets in, of course, better shape, my lord, just think about the matches she could have with like a Bianca Belair or a Rhea Ripley or even a Nia Jax. She could make some real fucking money. This is one of those times where the the IWC thinking WWE is gonna snatch somebody from underneath AEW. Yeah, they probably should. And it's not because she's fantastic right now. It's that she's got intangibles that nobody else got. She's a freak of nature at this point in her life, okay? Now, they do have big girls in WWE too, which is why, I'm pitching the idea of her working with the other big girls. But she has more of a presence on the indies because most of the girls are not as big as she is. But then again, when you look at Megan Bain in AEW, are you expecting AEW to treat the big girls right? They can't treat the big guys right, But we'll see. If they're smart though, they're putting out feelers for this Bozilla. Persephone works in CMLL, and people think she's going to get snatched up too. But I think she's one of those Mexican truthers that would prefer to be in CMLL. So it is what it is, and she was okay in here. She showed some passion and some intensity, which I kind of liked. Kyle Fletcher defeats Hiromu Takahashi. This match had sequences. Of course, Swerve and Okada had sequences. This is chains of moves that they just do to each other, right? It's a good TV match, because again, I liked Hiromu, so good TV match, nothing wrong here, but nothing too special. Opening match, Edge and Christian defeat Chris Sabin, Kip Sabian, and Luchasaurus. So Kip Sabian and Luchasaurus are a tag team who don't get along. They're chest chopping each other and yelling at one another. But the London crowd, well, Edge and Christian clearly won the match. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? In any event, the crowd is chanting. And the crowd got a little annoying later, but they got real LGBTQ early. They're doing the Bailey song, and I'm not quite sure what the word is, but it's, hey, Bailey, I want to know if you'll be my girl. And they're chanting this at one of the guys in the ring. They're chanting for one of the guys to be their guy. What? What kind of people are they attracting here in London? Now, they said, and this was a big talking point, and you're probably going to hear about this a lot, that this show outdrew Money in the Bank, was at 2023, 2024, that was in London, the Bloodline Civil War. I think that one did 17,000 or something. This one did allegedly 18,000. We'll know for sure when they do the turnstile count. And something tells me that if they did draw more, it's probably because they wanted more of those rainbow people in the building. Because these people were chanting for men to be their guy. And it was all male voices. No female voices to be heard. Which I found to be very interesting, considering what Dave Meltzer said about NXT and people watching, single men watching NXT alone. Listen to the London crowd sing for men in the ring. They were, later in the show, they were singing Swerve's house in the middle of our street. Swerve's house in the middle of our street. I was like, what on earth? At least that's funny. It's a reference to a real song. I don't know what they were doing during parts of this show. I really don't. I also don't know why Toni Storm's face was white. I think I may have looked away, but she had mannequin face, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. Anyway, Forbidden Door. What can I say about this show? There's going to be people who are going to try to suggest to you that it was a great show. In my opinion, it was short. It was 4.5 hours, but that's still long. That's still a long time. And the main event was kind of mid. The biggest spots of the main event didn't get a reaction, mainly because people are, you teach the audience to only react to people being stabbed. If that's what it takes, I guess that's fine, but you teach the audience to only respond when people are getting stabbed and there's gushers of blood and all that sort of stuff, and it's completely and totally unnecessary. The show, I think it was a solid show. Clearly some of these matches were not TV, well, they weren't pay-per-view worthy. Hiromu and Kyle Fletcher, the Triple Threat Tag Team Championship match, the Women's Fatal 4-Way, those matches aren't really pay-per-view matches, and we could have gotten out of here in 3 hours if we'd gotten rid of those 3 matches. But AEW is not doing 6-match cards. They're doing 9-match cards. But for a show that had a lot of their stars bunched up in the main event, it actually wasn't that bad. I could tell you for sure that the main spot for the tag team championship match where who's that bandito got a 5 count or something like that at the end. These referees and these finishes they absolutely ruin AEW. The fact that AEW can't 6 years in can't find a way to end matches on a high note is an embarrassment. But they're still there. They're still doing their thing, and the fans are still eating it up. So that's that. But for me, it was a solid show. I wouldn't say it was poor. I wouldn't say it was terrible. I would say it was nothing special. So let me know what you guys thought, and I'll talk to you good people later. Peace out.